Hey guys, Logic Lesson 48, continued, part 2. Um, you were supposed to have read pages 88 through 94 yesterday. That was the first part of your lesson. And today we're going to go over some of what you learned, not all of it. We're going to take this lesson kind of slow because we're starting to get into some of the more complex parts of logic. And I want you to be able to wrap your minds around it. You have to really use your brains for this. This takes some thinking. Okay, it's really, when you really think about it, it's not that hard. Actually, it's logical, which makes sense, right? But anyway, it takes really focusing and concentrating on what is going on here. So pay close attention, and I'm going to try to go through this without spending too much time. If you need to back it up or pause it because something didn't make sense, feel free to back it up and go over it again. If you need to call me, that's fine too. But yeah, we can do this. We can get this, right? I want to review just a little bit because I know that it's been a while since we've done logic, and this stuff may not be fresh in your minds. So we're going to review a bit to try to bring some of that back. So let's see here. What are the 4 types of statements? 4 types of statements are A, I, E, and O statements. What is an A statement? An A statement is a universal affirmative statement. It's all S is P. Okay? All S is P. Or an example, all cats are 4-legged creatures. What is an I statement? An I statement is a particular affirmative statement. Some S is P. Or an example, some cats are 4-legged creatures. What is an E statement? An E statement is a universal negative. No S is P. For example, no cats are 4-legged creatures. And the last one, of course, what is an O statement? An O statement is a particular negative. Some S is not P. Some cats are not 4-legged creatures. Okay? And remember, the quality of a proposition is what? Positive or negative, right? Yes or no. Okay? If it's a yes statement, or if it's a, it's not saying no about something, then it's a positive statement. That's the quality. Okay? So that's what we refer to as affirmative or negative. I say positive or negative. We should actually say affirmative or negative. Okay? Is it affirming something, or is it negating something? Is it saying no about something or not, or using some kind of a negative word like that, or is it just affirming something? That's the quality, and that's what we refer to as affirmative or negative. And do you remember what the quantity of the proposition is? Quantity is whether it's universal or particular. Is it referring to everything? So if we say no, people are weird, that's a universal statement. It's saying no one. If we say all people are weird, that's also universal, even though it's an affirmative universal. Okay, but if we are referring to a particular group, if we say some people are white, that's a particular statement because it's referring to a group, not all. Right? Okay. Let's see. So the square of opposition, and I have that drawn over here. I don't have everything on it because we're kind of working through and learning it as we go. What we have already learned is contradiction, right? So contradiction is the relationship between E and I statements and A and O statements. So basically a contradiction is that if one is true, the other must be false. If one is false, the other must be true. It's pretty straightforward. So if an A statement is true, the O statement must be false. So if you're saying all S is P, and then you say some S is not P about the same thing, one of them is going to be false. They cannot both be true at the same time. Same thing with E and I statements. If you say some S is P or no S is P, both of those statements, propositions, cannot be true at the same time. That's a contradiction. Okay? Those are pretty simple because if one is true, the other is false. That's just how it is. Okay? So today we are actually going to start into learning about contrariety. The entire lesson is about contrariety and subcontrariety. But today we're just going to focus on contrariety. Okay? So make sure you have your notebook out. You want to be taking notes just as if you were in logic class. So pick up where you left off before we went home for spring break and just keep going with your notes. All right. So contrariety is what we're going to start with. Contrariety is the relationship between A and E propositions. Oh, Mr. Weaver still can't spell. So if we take a look at the square of opposition, you have A and E. Let me move my camera a bit there so you can see. You have A and E statements at the top. So that's why this is contrariety. Okay? It's a relationship between E and A statements. Let's review a little bit. What are A statements? We're going to go ahead and write this down just so that we keep it fresh in our minds. A statements are, or the format of A statements is all S is P. Okay, so all cows are mammals, or something like that, right? All S is P. What's an E statement? No S is P. Okay? So A statements, E statements. What is the relationship between A statements and E statements? Okay, one of the aspects of the relationship between A statements and E statements is that they cannot both be true at the same time. Okay, so that makes sense. That's similar to a contradiction, right? Contradictions can't both be true at the same time. Same thing with contrariety. Same thing with A and E propositions. They cannot be true at the same time. So if one is true, the other must be false. Can you guys read that down there? My handwriting tends to get worse and worse the lower I go on the chalkboard. Not that it's good higher either, but anyway, it goes from bad to worse, right? Anyway, if one is true, the other must be false. That's a very important part of understanding contrariety. Again, very similar to contradiction. Okay? However, there's a difference between contrariety and contradiction. And I'm going to erase this so I can write a little more. there is a significant difference between contrariety and contradiction. Remember, this is contradiction, but up top we have contrariety. So we wrote, if one is true, the other must be false. They cannot both be true at the same time. However, contrary statements can both be false at the same time. Okay? They can't both be true, but they can both be false. All right? So if you have a contrary statement, an E statement, and an A statement, if the E statement is true, you know the A statement has to be false. They can't both be true. If one is true, the other has to be false. However, if one is false, you don't necessarily know for sure that the other one is going to be true, because they can both be false. Okay? So that's the difference between that and contradiction. So let's write this as well. If one contrary proposition is false, it does not necessitate the truth or falsity of the other one. Okay. If one contrary proposition is false, it does not necessitate the truth. Oops, I wrote that wrong. My bad. It's supposed to be or. I put up. It does not necessitate the truth or falsity of the other one. One more time. If one contrary proposition is false, it does not necessitate the truth or falsity of the other one. So let me give you some examples. Again, contradiction. If this one's true, this one has to be false. If this one's false, this one has to be true. That's contradiction. So if I give you an example of contradiction, some cows are carnivores. That would be, that would be an O statement, I believe. No, not an O statement. That would be an I statement. Yeah. So if I say some cows are carnivores, that's an I statement. No cows are carnivores, that would be an E statement. Okay? Those two cannot be both. Sorry. If one is true, the other one has to be false. If one is false, the other has to be true. So if I say something like, some cows are carnivores, and you said that's false, then that means that automatically no cows are carnivores is going to have to be true. All right? Contrariety is a little different. So again, that's from here to here, or from here to here. If I say all S is P, okay? Let's give an example. All boys are pigs. If this is a true contrary statement, the E statement, okay, so that would be an A statement, all boys are pigs. The E statement, no boys are pigs, must be false. All right? If one is true, A is true, E must be false. However, let's turn that around. Let's say that A is false, which it is actually a false statement, right? Because not all boys are pigs. But if we say all boys are pigs, and we say, well, that's false, does that mean that E has to be true? No, it does not mean that E has to be true. Okay? It does not necessarily mean that the contrary statement, no boys are pigs, is true. It could be, but not necessarily. It could still be true that some boys are pigs and some are not. Okay? So if this one is false, this one could be false, or it could be true. Okay? So that's the relationship between contrariety. A couple of more examples. If I say all birds are hummingbirds, that's a false statement, right? All birds are hummingbirds. Okay, that's false. And then I say the E statement, no birds are hummingbirds. Is that true? No, that one is also false. Okay? If I say all birds are hummingbirds, if that's a false statement, which it is, and I say no birds are hummingbirds, which is an E statement, that is also false. Okay, let me give you another example. If I say all cows are carnivores, once again, that's a false statement. Okay, all cows are carnivores, false statement. But if I say no cows are carnivores, that's actually true. Right? Okay. So do you see what I mean? If you have a false A statement, or for that matter, a false E statement, you don't necessarily know what the other one is. That's the relationship of contrariety. Now, if it's a true statement, you know it has to be false. The other one has to be false. But if it's a false statement, you don't know whether or not the other one is true. Okay? So that's our lesson for today. For your homework, I want you to do the questions on page 95, and then I want you to do numbers 1, 4, and 6 on pages 96 and 97. You know what? I think we're going to go ahead and do a couple of them together, just so you have the idea on this. The examples on page 96. And if you want to write them down now, you can. If you want to wait until you do your homework and so you can keep things in order, that's fine. But I'm just going to go over a couple of them with you. I don't think I'm going to write the answers down, but I'll just go over them. So number 1, on page 96 under examples. Okay, everybody there? Page 96 in your logic book. Not the first section, but the second section is examples. Let's look at the directions. The directions say, please do the following. Write the relationship that exists between each of the following propositions. That's the first part. The second part is note whether each proposition is true or false. And the last part is explain whether or not the propositions follow the rules of the relationship of opposition that they demonstrate. You may need to do some research to provide the correct answers for some of the examples. Okay, so let's do number 1. Number 1 says, some Egyptians are Christians. No Egyptians are Christians. What kind of statements are these? A, E, I, or O. What kind of statement? So the first one, some Egyptians are Christians, is an I statement. Okay? Where are we at down here? I statement. No Egyptians are Christians. What kind of statement is that? That is an E statement. Okay? So we're going from I to E, which makes it a contradiction. Okay? So the answer to letter A is these are contradictory propositions. Okay? Contradictory. If you just put contradictory, that's fine. Okay? Contradictory. So then if you look at letter B, it says some Egyptians are Christians. Is that a true statement? Yes, that's a true statement. Some Egyptians are Christians. The second one, no Egyptians are Christians, is a false statement, right? Now again, contradiction. If one is true, the other has to be false. Okay? This is true, this is going to have to be false. Right? So does it follow the rules? Yes, absolutely, it follows the rules. So you just want to kind of explain that under letter C. These propositions follow the rules of contradictions because one is false and one is true. Okay, so that's what you want to write, something to that effect. One is false, one is true. That follows the rules of contradiction. A little hint, every single one of these are going to follow the rules of contradiction because that's the way it works, right? So, but you just want to kind of explain how it follows the rules of contradiction. All right, let's just go to maybe number 6 and do that one together. It says all kiwis are flightless birds. No kiwis are flightless birds. I thought kiwis were something you eat. I guess it's a bird too. Anyway, so all kiwis are flightless birds. What kind of statement is that? That's an A statement. All S is P. Okay? All kiwis are flightless birds. A statement. How about no kiwis are flightless birds? What kind of statement is that? E statement, right? No S is P. So there we have A and E. Okay, so what kind of relationship does this have? What kind of propositions are these? These are contrary propositions, right? We use the word contrariety kind of to label it, but you can say contrary in your answer. Okay? These are contrary propositions. All kiwis are flightless birds. Is that true? Now, I don't know much about kiwis, but evidently that is true. All kiwis are flightless birds. They're birds that can't fly. Okay? So if that is true, under the rules of contrariety, that means that we know that the other statement, no kiwis are flightless birds, is false. Okay? So if all kiwis are flightless birds, that's true. It means that no kiwis, if you say no kiwis are flightless birds, that has to be false. Okay? And so then under letter C, you would say something like, these propositions follow the rules of contrariety because they state that if one contrary proposition is true, the other must be false. Okay, so again, we know that if one statement of contrariety is true, the other must be false. But also remember that if one is false, it doesn't necessarily mean that the other is true. They could both be false, but they can't both be true. Got it? All right. Hang in there. Let me know if you have questions.